Hello audience, executive producer Ramsey here of Laney in Chains, our music biopic which me and Kevin have been working on. Unfortunately Kevin the director is busy at the moment, so I will take over for the evaluation at this moment in time. In what ways does our media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products, you ask? Well, let's start off with how our work compares to normal opening sequences. Your normal opening sequence always tends to introduce a protagonist, an antagonist, and a sort of basis of the storyline to build up a beginning, a crisis, a resolve, and an end, like a story. However, music biopic does not work like that. It can work in many ways, because the way Laney in Chains was formed was by the way that we decided to open up with Lane Staley, our protagonist, if you will, dying or dead, taking the final drugs that kill him. And we want the audience to be peering in their seats wondering, what happened to him? Why is he taking so many drugs to the point of death? But unfortunately, that would be ruining the story if I told you any of the build-up, so please see the film. Next question is, how does it establish characterization? Well, Lane Staley was part of a group, a grunge group called Alice in Chains. He was the lead vocalist, and the way we wanted to characterize it from our opening sequence was we used simple traits. So rather than put him in a mansion, like you would some famous people, we put him in a simple house because a rock star's budget is not the greatest in the world. It's enough to give him a steady living. And then we did small things, in fact. We left booze on the table, we had drugs on his little table. We actually put a guitar to the side to represent his trait that he's a musician, that he writes music for a living. The next question to move on to is, how does it establish setting? Well, the way we have established the setting that it is at his home is that we've sort of blocked the windows, like closed them off with blinds, so it seems all shut up away from the world, and did an establishing shot panning along the street to the point that we point at his door and zoom in, and then at this point we'll use a transition of a fade out, and then we'll come back into the actual room as if we sort of entered like a ghost. Like we are watching the story unfold, not actually getting far too deep into it.
Hello, this is the producer Kevin Ho speaking. As before in our previous video by Tom Ramsey, we have been talking about characterization, settings and genre. Today I will be speaking to you about the narratives and visual styles of our biopic. Now, Lane Staley was a musician who was the lead singer of Alice in Chains. His life went downhill after experimenting too much with drugs. But what actually happened? Well, you'll just have to watch our film to find out. Before, he was just a normal singer, enjoying his life as the lead singer of Alice in Chains. But after experimenting with cannabis, then cocaine, and now heroin, his life started as a golden opportunity down to only just rags. Now, he was in his condo for 3 years without going much outside for any fresh air or any contact with other people. He's been locked in his house for 3 years after taking heroin and cocaine. Now, we sort of established visual style using several different types of technology. With visual style, we've used several different props, such as props, guitars, drug paraphernalia, and even artificial lighting. To control the bright light that was coming from outside, we closed all the blinds and windows. We then replaced that light using artificial light to make it so it's not too bright. We tried to make it as gloomy as possible, but to make a very good contrast, so we used an ordinary table light.
Oh, audience, I didn't see you there. Tom Ramsey here, just working on the editing for Laney in Chains, but I could give that a break and leave the film playing for you. Little preview for you right there. But where were we at last time? Ah yes, I was answering question 1 for you, but we couldn't finish. The first point being on ideology. The ideology of our film, and whose side I believe you should be on, is that you're not really on anyone's side. This is supposed to be a learning experience, a learning curve for you, to understand how life, fame, fortune, and stress could overwhelm people and make them do stuff out of the ordinary, or cause problems for people, which is just a harsh and terrible cycle which we as a human race can face. But that there is no ideology to this film is the moral of that sentence there. Next point would be on our title sequence. As you can no doubt see in the background, we have mine and Kevin's name pop up and the name of our productions, Blello Productions, very important production I might add, very good. And we've made it distinct because it's nice, bold, white writing, and it's because I did some music biopic research, because I watch biopics on groups like Metallica, Motley Crue, who are very similar to Alice in Chains, and the way they worked was that with their credits they kind of had neutral, white writing, nothing fancy, sort of normal block writing, and you have it come up from time to time and fade away to make sure that you don't get too absorbed by the action. Some biopics tend to also actually try and play the credits at the end, but this is an opening sequence and we want to sort of make it a little bit clear on the fact that this is going to be a whole film and not like a quick half an hour brief segment. To my next point, which is on how our film challenged or developed the conventions of your classic opening sequence. The way Laney in Chains works is it follows the principle of music biopic. So we followed the rules that we go through Lane Staley's life from the start of his career to any highs and falls in between to the point of where he died. Or in other musicians' terms, where they are now, what they are up to, whether they are working on something new. But in our case, I thought to myself actually, because due to the beginning of the media course, we watched a load of thriller films, and I felt particularly inspired when I watched The Usual Suspects actually, because they did a very cool opening actually, dare I say so, because they actually skipped to the sort of end parts where the the protagonist gets killed by the antagonist, and you're left in your seats wondering, oh my god, what's happened? What has built up to this climactic moment? And that made me think to go and ask Kevin, could we do that for our biopic? You know, could we have Lane Staley, since we both knew from our own research, Kevin into the group, mine into how biopics worked, that Lane Staley died from drugs. Could we have Lane Staley in our opening sequence just die from drugs at some point and then leave the audience gagging? That's right, I used the word gagging for more of the film really, to find out why did he do it? Why did he take these drugs? And I will leave you audience to think about that actually.